hoping to have something to complain about on this lens. It kind of feels like I'm getting in a rut on reviewing either really good or incredible lenses, because I certainly didn't all of a sudden become happy. You know, I can't stand people that love everything, because nothing they say is of any value. I love this. How do you like the guy that got out of jail yesterday? It was an axe murderer. Oh, he's a nice guy. It's like those people have nothing to offer anybody. People that love everything have nothing intelligent or beneficial or useful to say to anybody. I actually wanted to find something to hate about this lens. Because I only borrowed this lens, and you know, I don't get like free stuff from Tamron or anything like that. This lens is, you know, it's actually really important on wide zooms, to have them be really sharp. That is where sharpness is extremely important. The saturation in the bokeh is, this lens is kind of, well, it borders on stunning. Well, I do think it's stunning. I was actually shocked on this lens. This is a $600 lens. It's $599. It has no frills. It has no vibration reduction. It just has a manual focus / autofocus switch. It is very lightweight. It's a new lens from Tamron. A lot of people want me to review it. It is a DX crop sensor lens. It's a 17 to 35 f2.8 to f4 DI OSD. Did a lot of testing with it. Here's a little sample shot at I think what was it? Yeah, it was at 35 millimeters. I did a lot of shots. I couldn't remember what this one was taken at. The bokeh is amazing. So is the saturation, and it's incredibly sharp. Now, the point of actually considering this lens is, in the case of Nikon, and yeah, this is available obviously so in a Canon mount, is this lens relative to the 18 to 35 G series Nikkor, or the 15 to 30 Tamron. Now, I don't have the G2 Tamron yet for testing. Everybody's been actually beating me over the head like crazy. I should have it within the next week. Hello, Tamron, are you listening? Hello, hello. Everybody's really been beating me up about that lens. By the way, I named the Tamron 15 to 30, the original version, Lens of the Year a couple years ago. I own that lens. I sold an enormous amount of those lenses. I would hope that Tamron would actually send me that lens for testing. Tamron really has been kicking butt and taking names the past few years. I can actually tell you that their lenses are better than modern G-series Nikkors as far as build, construction, and quality. They are. Also to the 17 to 55. Now the 17 to 55 can be had used. It's still a current production lens for around $600, and as a fixed 2.8 lens, it's actually the lens. I've got a couple copies of it on a D500 that's filming my ugly face right now. That lens actually does render a little bit better than this does, but that's a used lens for $600, and it is about twice as big and considerably heavy. If I were doing travel or a street between those three lenses, the 15 to 30, which is a huge lens and also quite heavy, and of course you have no filter options for that lens. There actually is a third-party filter option, but it's rather expensive and obnoxiously odd. Or the 18 to 35, which is an ultra lightweight. It is an extremely lightweight, wide zoom lens, the 18 to 35 current 18 to 35 G series lens. 1755 is rather large and heavy. I mean, so this, you know, in the spectrum of things where this lens actually falls, this still kind of falls right at number one, even though the 17 to 55 does render a little bit better. And it is, of course, a fixed 2.8 lens, but I mean, it is large and heavy. I do love the lens, and I've recommended it endlessly. Interestingly enough, the 10 to 24, which is also another DX lens I reviewed a little over half a year ago, is absolutely incredible, and I'm recommending it to people. I can also extremely highly recommend the 17 to 35 Tamron, this new lens. At $600, I mean, it falls $100 higher than the 10 to 24, but I mean, this is a more expensive build construction lens, so that's perfectly logical from the premise of Tamron and what they charge for this lens, US dollar retail. This is a pretty fascinating lens. Of the four lenses, if you take not weight into consideration but pure output and usefulness given the 18 to 35 G series Nikkor, this 17 to 35, which is not a fixed 2.8, it's a 2.8 to f4. The 15 to 30 Tamron, which is huge and heavy, and so is the 17 to 55. If we actually take weight off the board, where does this lens fall? Well, it's the same price as the used 17 to 55. This falls right after the 17 to 55. The 15 to 30 it's a huge lens. I mean, not saying you can't travel with it. Like I said, I named it Lens of the Year for 2015, I believe. I love it, and I've used it a lot. I love the 15 to 30 Tamron. It's even better than the Nikkor 14 to 24, which I also happen to own. A very expensive lens at $2,000. At the 15 to 30, eminently outclassed. I can't wait to try out the new G2 at 15 to 30 Tamron. I'm just trying to make a logical premise of conclusion about where this lens falls relative to its three peers, and I would actually consider it to be the perfect travel lens or walk-around lens. It's incredibly sharp, so is saturation. Bokeh is surprisingly very, very good. Actually, the bokeh on it's excellent. For a wide-angle zoom like this, actually bokeh on it is absolutely excellent. So I'd actually highly recommend this lens. I actually found this lens, I was not planning on, and I've said that quite a few times recently on recent lens reviews, and I hate to sound like I'm parroting myself from another earlier lens review, but I actually have to say that I was actually quite stunned about this lens and its output. I was not expecting it to be anything more than, I don't want to say ho-hum, but it's actually a really stunning lens. It's quite shocking, actually. Was not expecting that. A few people have told me, I said I was going to review this lens, and what my conclusions were when I posted about it on Instagram. Their statement was correct that Tamron is really kicking butt lately the past few years, and this lens is no exception. I have mildly, flung a little poo like a monkey at a few recent Tamron lenses. It's really, really hard to nail an 85mm very good. And I'm not a fan of Tamron's 85mm 1.8 portrait lens that came out a few years ago. I'm not a fan of it. Probably because I own used absolutely every one, but own also every decent 85mm made by Zeiss, Nikon, and several others. So that's a Tamron lens I don't like. What's another one of Tamron that I like? The Tachina. People say, everybody asks me all the time. I just don't want to feel like I'm sounding like a person that is a Tamron loving parrot, because I do love Tamron and they're making better lenses than Nikon recently. But like another example, while the 90mm macro Tamron is excellent, it still pales relative to the 100mm Tachina, which is built better and is far cheaper. It does have noisy autofocus and a couple other very minor quirks, but it's still superior to the Tamron 90. And also, too, another Tamron lens that I said there's just, I can't recommend it no way, no how, was the 150 to 600mm, because the Nikkor 200 to 500, I mean, Nikon owns that arena. The 200 to 500 Nikon owns everybody else's butt, both Tamron and Sigma. I hope that doesn't piss Sigma off, but I mean, I'm being honest, and that's what I said at the time that I reviewed the lens. So there have been a few Tamron lenses where I just said, no, there's just no, buy it if you want it, but, I just, and not there because they were inferior, but relative to some other lenses which were superior and a cheaper price. Example, 100mm Tachina, and another example, the 200-500 Nikkor, as opposed to Tamron's version of that lens. So I am not a Tamron totally, yeah, it's great, it's a Tamron. Not a Tamron parrot. This lens is stunning. It took me a long time to get around to saying that, right? A lot of people love to attack me saying, oh, you could have made this video review in 3 minutes, or it's like, yeah, you're probably right, but I wanted to say what I wanted to say. This is my review and not yours. Tamron doesn't pay me to say anything about their lenses one way or the other. This lens is absolutely excellent. I give it a solid 9+ out of 10. It's, yeah, easily a 9+ out of 10. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you like these video reviews. Buy this lens wherever you buy things from, because I don't have affiliate links like everybody else. I'm not selling, pimping, or shilling anything. Whatever you buy, I don't make a dime. I just want people to be happy and not piss their money away unnecessarily. And there's no chance of that on this lens. Excellent lens. It's actually far better than excellent. So kudos to Tamron. This is an incredible lens. But I did have to point out those 4 Tamron lenses that I'm not a fan of, just to put an exclamation point on the fact that I'm not like, you know, a Tamron fanboy. I am a Tamron fanboy because they're making awesome lenses that are made better than Nikon for a lot less money. So I'm a Tamron fanboy, but, you know, if they make something I don't like, it's the same thing with Nikon. I love Nikon to death. I got their logo tattooed on my hand. And, God, I own hundreds and hundreds of Nikkor lenses and nearly a dozen Nikon DSLR, but I attack the hell out of their new Z6, Z7 for countless valid reasons. I'm not fanboy to anybody. I appreciate quality and incredible products, but yeah, Tamron nailed it out of the park, kicked it out of the park. Yeah, right? Knocked it out of the park. There we go. There's a correct statement. Too much caffeine today for me. I have had fun out shooting today, testing a few different lenses, and this one was actually the most desirable to test. Most fun I had testing today. It's just one shot among many. Very surprised on this lens. Damn, it's sharp, and the bokeh is really, really nice. Thank you, and hello to Tamron. If you like these videos, you could always drop me a buck or two below, because anything helps. Because I'm like taking up 80% of my life testing stuff, and I don't have affiliate links, and you know, I don't know what people think it is I get paid for making YouTube videos, but it's not much. Thank you so much for watching. As I pounded my sore finger with the ingrown fingernail. Here we go. Yeah. And Tamron.